Good morning, learners. Welcome to today's lesson. We are going to talk about active and passive voice. Active and passive voice. And in our last lesson, I remember in the last lesson that I sent, we were talking about subject, verb, and the object. In the last lesson, we talked about the subject, which I said the subject is the doer, verb is the action, then object, the object is the receiver of the action. And in this statement, this is where I'm going to base my lesson, whereby I'm going to talk about active and passive. And when you get a sentence, in this form, whereby you have the subject, verb, and an object, this sentence is always in active voice. It's always known as active voice. Example of a sentence is where Sammy eats ugali. Sammy eats ugali. This is our sentence, and I said when you find a sentence where we have a subject, a verb, and an object, the three of them make our sentence to be active. This is always known as active. The sentence is in active voice. Active is whereby we start the sentence with the subject. Our sentence always starts with the subject, then ends with an object. Our sentence always starts with the subject, then ends with an object. This is always an active form. We say that this sentence is in active form. Then we come to passive. This one I did last week, I remember. Subject, verb, object. Subject, verb, object. This one we introduced last week. This we say this sentence is direct, active or direct. Active or direct. The sentence is direct. Now, let's introduce passive voice. Let us introduce passive voice. Passive voice is where we start with an object. Passive is where we start with an object. Example, ugali is eaten by Sammy. Ugali is eaten by Sammy. This sentence we say it is in passive voice. Passive voice. This sentence is in passive voice. I say passive voice. Now we start with an object. You start with an object, then a verb, then we end by the subject. Our sentence ends with the subject. When you are talking about passive voice, we say that ugali is eaten by Sammy. We start with the object. The object is where the object now is the doer. As the receiver, we start with the receiver. The verb, then the subject, the doer, who did that thing. Who did the thing that is being, who ate ugali, who did the action. Who did the action? That is where we say our sentence is in passive voice. I say and I repeat. We have two types of sentences. One is active and the other sentence is passive. Active is where I'm going to start my sentence with the subject, then verb, then object. This one we did last week. Subject, verb, object. But when I'm talking about a sentence in passive form, I'm saying we start with an object, who is the receiver, a verb, then the subject, the doer, who did the action, becomes the last thing. So I give a statement. Active voice we start with the doer. When you're talking about active, we start with the doer. Why? The doer of the action. The doer of the action. Active voice. When you're talking about active voice, when you're talking about an active voice, we start our sentence with the doer of the action. We start our sentence. When I'm talking about passive voice, when I'm talking about the passive voice, I'm talking about, we start our sentence, starting our sentence with the receiver. With the receiver of the action. We start our sentence with the receiver of the action. We start our sentence with the receiver of the action. And the receiver of the action, I say, is known as the object. This one is the object. Then the doer of the action, I say, is the subject. Here, this one is the subject. So, I want us to look at some words. Not that, not that, not. When the sentence is like here, ugali is, or Sami eats ugali. Our sentence here, Sami eats ugali, is in present simple tense. Sami eats. Let me give another sentence. David makes a toy. David makes a toy. David makes a toy. This is active. This is active. Our sentence here is active. David makes a toy. This is in singular. This a toy is in singular. Singular. The sentence is in singular. A toy. David makes a toy. It's only one. And our sentence here is in present simple tense. Present simple tense. Our sentence is present simple tense. David makes. Present simple tense. Then when we change this sentence, we want to change our sentence into passive voice. This one I said this sentence is in active voice, where this is the doer makes a toy. David makes a toy. This is active. We want to change our sentence into passive voice. Then it will be a toy. A toy. A toy. A toy is made. A toy is made by David. A toy is made by David. A toy is made by David. This is in passive. This is in passive voice. Now, let's look at a toy. A toy in our sentence is the receiver. This is the receiver. Made is a verb. Then David is the doer. David is the doer. And since our sentence was in singular, that is why I'm using is. When this sentence was maybe in plural, let's say David makes toys. David makes toys. David makes toys. Our sentence now, these are toys. Our sentence now is in plural. Our sentence is in plural. Then we'll say, when we change our sentence into passive voice, it will be toys are made by David. see the difference. I want you to see the difference. A toy is made. A toy is made. This is only one toy. This is only one toy. That is why I'm using is as in singular. But when we come to plural, when you find that the word ends with plural is the example. Here you have toys, we have mangoes, tomatoes, potatoes, all those. When you are ending with singular plural, you have to use are. We usually use are. So that is when our sentence is in present simple tense. Present simple tense. Let's look at this sentence when you are talking about past tense. When you are talking about past tense, let's look at active and passive. Active and passive. When you are talking about active and passive, when you are talking about active and passive in past simple tense. In past simple tense. Past simple tense. Past simple tense. Example in a sentence will say, Sammy ate ugali. Sammy ate ugali. Sammy ate ugali. This is ate. Ate here, and our sentence, remember, our sentence is active. Always remember, we usually start with active. Sammy ate ugali. And for you to know whether the sentence is inactive, you have to start with, this is the doer of the subject. You have to start with the doer of the doer of the action. This is the action. Ate is the action. Action is a verb. Then ugali is our receiver. Ugali is our receiver. So we shall say Sammy ate ugali. And I said this sentence is in past simple tense. So how do we change our sentence from active to passive? From active to passive. We will say ugali was eaten by Sammy. Ugali was eaten by Sammy. Ugali was eaten by Sammy. Our sentence now is in passive voice. Our sentence now is in passive voice. So I want us to look at these two types of sentences. There are very many types of sentences. We have not talked about present. Let's look at another sentence, present continuous. Let's look at present continuous. Present continuous. Present continuous meaning something is still going on. Something is still going on. This is present continuous. Now, let's look at a sentence. Ugali. I'll still use ugali. Ugali is being eaten by. Ugali is being eaten by Sammy. You are still on the same sentence, trying to change it differently. Ugali is being eaten by. Ugali. Here I've already changed this. Let's start with Sammy is eating ugali. Sammy is eating ugali. I had started with passive voice instead of active. You have to start a sentence with active first. Sammy is eating ugali. This action is still going on. Someone is still eating. The action is still going on. So this one is present continuous. Something is still going on. Sammy is eating ugali. Continuous. Something is still going on. So this is active. Our sentence is active. When you change this sentence into passive now, I want to change the sentence into passive. I will say ugali is being summing. But the most important thing here, when you are changing a sentence from active to passive, what you should do or what you should remember is when we are talking about active, the receiver of the action, the subject, will be start. We start with the action here. Start. When we are talking about active, we want to change our sentence from active to passive. From active to passive. The receiver of the action. The receiver of the action, which is the subject, always starts. It is always the one that starts the sentence. So here we are going to talk, we are seeing different sentences. David makes a toy. A toy is made by, and I said remember, you always remember to look at the ending of the sentence. The doer or the receiver, is the receiver in singular or is the receiver in plural? If the receiver is in plural, then we are going to use an. If the receiver of the sentence is in singular, we are going to use is. If the receiver of the sentence is in plural, we are going to use an. Make the difference. So there are other words apart from that. There are other words apart from these ones, is and are, that changes. There are other words apart from is and are that changes. Example. We are going to look at I. Here in active, this is active, and here passive. Active and passive. Active and passive. I say in active, a word like is, I goes to me. When I'm talking about I in active, I'll talk about me in passive. I in active, we'll see that in a sentence. I in active, me in passive. Let's look at we becomes us, we, us. Then we talk about she becomes her. Then we have it means it. Then they becomes them. Let's look at one sentence talking about I and me. Example in a sentence. I danced I opened the door. 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 This one is in active voice. Let me change my sentence into passive. If I change the sentence into passive, it will be the door was opened. The door was opened by me. The door was opened by me. The door was opened by me. Meaning, you cannot say the door was opened by I. The door was opened by me. So when you look at these sentences, you have first to look at if the sentence, you have to change also. We becomes us, she becomes her, it becomes it, remains it, then they becomes them. So that marks the end of our lesson on active and passive. And today we are only looking at 3 tenses. I've only talked about present simple tense, past simple tense, and continuous tense. I've talked about only 3 sentences. So, I will give assignment immediately after the video, and make sure you watch the video first before you do the assignment. This is just the continuation, so if you didn't watch the last time video, I don't think if you'll be able to answer this if you don't know what is the doer, what is the action, and what is the who is the receiver or who is the object. So make sure you watch the videos. I'll see you in the next video, in the next lesson. Bye bye. Wish you all the best.